Heavens Alive, it's podcast 275. This is IGN. My name is Chris Tilley, and this week I'm joined by Gav.
All right.
And Rory, he's not been around for a week or two.
I was on my Easter break. Yeah.
Well, don't you call it a vacation where you come
it was
from?
Fast.
You say Easter break. We're not at school
Easter
anymore, Rory. You know that, don't you?
Well, I still ask when I have to go to the bathroom, so I would consider it school.
Like prison.
Yeah.
That's why I want it to be more like prison.
Yeah.
So we normally kick off by saying what we've been up to. So what have you been up to on your Easter break?
Well, as people who listen to the podcast know, a lot of us are engaged in a bit of a fitness challenge. So I was off crisps and junk food and all that kind of stuff for Lent, which was excruciatingly hard. So on Easter, basically anything goes. Okay. It was mad. I ate double stuffed Oreos. I ate crisps. I ate chocolate. I ate 3 eggs. I ate a whole pint of Ben & Jerry's to the point where it was disgusting.
To the point that if you look up the word mad in the dictionary now, it's a picture of you eating those
shoveling
things.
It into my face.
That's how insane it was.
It was really bad. Now it's out of my system.
What if someone hasn't been listening to the podcast and doesn't know what your fitness challenge is?
Then I will explain it to them now.
Yeah, briefly.
Okay, very briefly.
Go.
So, a lot of us are engaged in the Chris Pratt Challenge, which took place, it started a couple months ago.
Started December 12th. It was meant to start.
My goodness. Okay, I'm behind. Basically, we had 6 months or so leading up to when Jurassic Park was going to be released.
Can I do this? Because you're doing a shit job.
What do you mean
We had 6 months to the day. We started it 6 months to the day when Jurassic World was coming out. And the idea was that Chris Pratt got in shape for Guardians 6 months to the day before he started filming. So he had 6 months to get in shape. So we're trying to see how in shape we can get in 6 months.
Yeah.
With varying results.
Yeah, we're 2/3 of the way there now. I've not seen much of a difference in anyone.
I've gotten fatter.
I see you at the gym. I see you at the gym quite a lot.
You got the gym more. That's the difference.
Trying harder.
Well, I don't really go that often. Yeah, I did it for a couple of days.
Yeah. No, you're still doing it though.
Not really.
Everyone is looking slightly better except for me. And we actually had an email on Rebel Base the other day calling me fat tattoo guy. So that's done nothing for my self-esteem, to be honest. So.
But it'll be interesting if you see. I think a lot of us took before photos.
Yeah.
I did do that.
I mean, that's like an incentive to stick with it, right? Because when you take that before photo, you know you're going to have to post an after one.
Did you push your belly out in the before photo?
I thought about it. I thought about pushing it out, oiling myself up with the turkey baster, making myself look as repulsive as possible.
You want to do that? No,
that's afterwards. Right, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't use the grease, so I've still got it. I thought about that, but then, of course, people are going to see the before photo as well. So I didn't want to I wanted to not look bad and then look really good. Not look like a gremlin.
Thing is, I've got
like
no
Super Saiyan.
problem exposing myself in public. I don't mind being naked in public. But I just don't want it to be, I don't want people to look at the before and after and just go,
Well, that's it. That's why you want to actually put some stuff.
And
put some work into it.
I think the idea is for us to show Chris Pratt the achievement of each person and let him decide who's best. Although we've not approached the film studio or Chris Pratt himself. We've just gone off and done this.
I reckon we'll just tweet at him. But
Maverick.
To be honest, I think more of it is rather than, I think that idea's kind of gone, but I think it's really interesting just to see, okay, left your own devices as a normal, regular guy, how in shape can you get in 6 months when you have to put up with work and shit
totally.
like that? Because I guess he had to get in shape because he was a big guy. Before he started getting in shape for Guardians. But you've got a professional sort of trainer and stuff like that.
And it's part of your job. It's tied into it.
It's literally your job to get in shape, otherwise you lose your job. Yeah.
Whereas we won't.
Won't we?
Unless we become too fat that we can't get into the studio to do videos.
I am on my way.
If we have to roll us in here, that might not be good.
I don't want that to happen.
Have you been up to anything, Gav, apart from hitting the gym and doing some weights and eating healthy?
Me and Rich actually did go to the gym together.
Mm-hmm. Do you go in the morning as well?
No, we went in the night. We went in on Thursday evening, the Thursday before Bank Holiday Friday, which is technically a Friday night. But instead of going to the pub, Rich and I decided to go to the gym because we had these Virgin Active passes. So we went to the really plush one in Mayfair where all the rich people go.
No way.
It was really good actually, and we did an hour on weights. And then we did a class with a lovely lady called Marianne, who was just a beautiful, really, really fit lady. Fit as in she was really good at doing athletics and things.
I bet she was good at athletics.
But she then had to contend with me and Rich, who'd already done an hour of the gym, doing this class with her. And she was pissing herself laughing because we were so shit.
What class? Just general
It was
fitness,
called Amped. Not Amped. That's a shit game. It was called. I don't know what it was
Is
called.
it one
but
of
it's
these
basically
ones like Street Fitness?
It was
or
kind
like
of, yeah. It was
Gangster
like
Weights or
it was
something.
like you burn 500 calories in 30 minutes by doing this circuit. But I thought it was going to be like a full class, but me and Rich were the only ones who turned up for it.
Oh my
so
gosh.
she really sort of hit us hard.
Well, that's cool. You got the VIP treatment.
If you were in an upmarket gym late at night, did you see John Travolta there?
No.
Do you know these stories?
No, I don't know these stories.
Google it. I'm not going to say it here.
Okay.
It's massively libelous, but yeah, he's just been hanging out with dudes he meets late at night in the gym, just asking them what they're doing, and
That'd be amazing.
and people have done a selfie because
cool.
there's a famous selfie that went round about 3 months ago.
Okay.
He took a selfie with this dude in the gym that he met, and it was him without his syrup on, without his wig. So it was like, wow, this is what actually it looks like under there, and it was pretty different.
Wow, I haven't seen that.
I'm surprised you haven't.
I need to see that.
And then other people have had stories about bumping into him. He's just a really friendly guy.
That would
Yeah.
be awesome. That would just make my gym sesh.
Would you leave with him?
Oh. Yes,
I would.
Yeah,
I'd
totally
let him
would,
fly
actually.
me anyway.
Yeah.
That'd be good. How about you? What have you been up to?
I did go to a very lovely event actually. That was on Friday night, but it ran all last week, called Letters Live.
Oh, right, amazing.
Which I didn't really know much about, but I got an email about, and it started in like a pub function room pretty much 2 years ago, with Benedict Cumberbatch and a bunch of his mates reading famous letters from the past, because it started to become kind of a literary industry. They're publishing books of great letters, or kind of lost letters, or letters that they think people would be interested in.
It's Letters of Note, isn't it? That's the website
Yeah.
that run it, yeah. So, like, I've known about them for a while from their Twitter, because they just publish these amazing letters now and again. And I think a couple of the famous ones, I think there's a really famous Michael Caine one. There's a really famous Spike, not Jones, not Lee. What's the other Spike? Milligan. There's a really famous Spike Milligan one. And I think the BBC one as well, the reject letter for Faulty Towers.
Yeah.
The first time I saw that was on Letters.
Yeah, he's got that framed in his office, I
Yeah.
believe. John Cleese does. Yeah, and it was great. So you don't know what's going to be read out the night you go, or what actors are going to be there. I think Ian McKellen did it the night before.
Wow.
I was there. So I was there. It was the main people behind it are Benedict Cumberbatch and Louise Brealey,
Right.
who plays the young lab technician who's in love with Sherlock.
Okay.
In Sherlock.
Yeah.
And so they did a very touching performance over the course of the evening of a series of letters between a soldier in World War II and his sweetheart back home.
Amazing.
And that's actually
really
a book.
cool.
There's a book of those letters.
Yeah.
And that was really lovely and quite tense, because you just think, oh, is this guy going to die?
badly.
But it was, they didn't actually say, but then I read the programme, and they grew up to be old people. Like, they stayed together.
Oh, that's
cool.
cute.
Yeah, that was nice. They were there. Olivia Colman was there, who
What did
was
she read?
great. They each came out and did one at a
she
time. She was
cries
quite
and
awkward. She did the funniest one of the night, though. It was a letter from 3 teenage girls to President Eisenhower just after Elvis Presley had been drafted into the army, begging him not to shave off Elvis's sideburns. And it was really funny.
Where do they find these letters? That's crazy.
Some of them you think, well, this was obviously, they would have kept all of Churchill's letters or whatever,
Yeah.
or if you got a letter from Churchill, you would have kept it.
Exactly.
Others, stuff that was unearthed and stuff that's only been found recently. Cumberbatch did one from Robert Crumb.
Okay.
He also performed the letter that Michael Powell wrote to Martin Scorsese after he read the script for Wise Guy, which became Goodfellas, telling him what he thought of it and what was good and what was bad.
That's pretty cool.
Because he was Scorsese's favourite director.
Yeah.
It was really good fun. And Tom Odell was there, and he came out and sang 3 songs over the course of the night about letter writing and letters. So
That's cool.
yeah, it was really interesting. I recommend people, you can go to that website, as you said, Letters of Note. I'm going to buy the books. Good gifts for the folks.
It's a good coffee table book.
Yeah.
You can just pick it up and
Or
read
toilet
through
book.
Or toilet.
Read a
I was
letter.
thinking a bit more of upper class.
Quite a
but
big
yeah.
book to fit in your toilet, depending on how big your toilet is.
And it was in the Freemasons Hall, which I've never been to, which is in Holborn, which is owned by the Freemasons, and it's kind of weird. Like,
Is that the
there's
one that's in a hotel? And they unearthed?
I don't think so.
Okay,
It's kind of a grand, like a guild hall, just on the street there. But yeah, like weird signs and logos all around, and like all weird, different religions.
The reason I asked is because I went to a Soul Calibur event before, and that was held in a Masonic temple,
right?
Which was just in a hotel. And when the new owners took over the hotel, smashed through just a wall, and inside was just this like perfectly preserved Masonic temple.
That's
and like
awesome.
when you're walking around it, you just look around, you think, a lot of virgins have died in this room.
Oh
definitely.
my word!
Like, if you know, when you feel like a bit uneasy about a room. I felt it in there. I still have pictures.
I haven't to that extent. That's
yeah, no,
terrifying.
dudes. I think my girlfriend said the ladies' toilets, they were like urinals in there because they just don't have ladies' toilets. They just put a sign on the door of the gents.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, it's quite an experience though. I thoroughly recommend it.
There's kind of a charm to letters that is lost nowadays, isn't there? You can't really do emails live.
It made you.
It doesn't really. It doesn't have that same kind of like romantic.
You
feel
walked
to
away
it.
wanting to write a letter.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It really
have like
made you
a wax seal. You know, those kind of like old style ones. That would be cool. I wish I had a stamp, one of those wax stamp things.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do with it. I would probably start sending a lot of letters.
Oh, so I think
Just be like pub at lunch.
I think people should write to Rory to start with, care of IGN office.
I'm lonely. That's
That'd be
the
really good,
underlining point here.
Equally, if anyone out there is a Freemason, me, Gav, and Rory up for joining. So just give us a shout. Yeah. We can join the Brotherhood.
Yeah, let's do it. A friend of mine was going to got an invitation to join because he runs a pub in Nottingham, but he's. I don't think he's gay, and I don't think they have very nice feelings about homosexuals.
That might.
I don't know if I'm wrong.
Wow.
If you're a Mason, please write in and don't kill me.
Heavily libelous cast now become.
Excellent.
Rory, what's been making you happy this week?
A lot of things have been making me happy this week. And
specifically, what's written down on this paper?
You kind of taking your time over.
Is this under the section of what's blowing our minds?
I don't know anymore.
Is this under?
Of course it is.
Okay.
I like that he changes his name every week, though. That's good.
Well, this is really intense, guys. Okay, so
I've written down so many notes.
I have done. This is a whole thing. Okay, so they basically have put out some teasers for the brand new Call of Duty game.
Right.
So I was doing some research about this, and it just spiraled out of control. It was crazy. So it all started with an update to Black Ops 2, where players realized that some of the advertisements in the game had been changed. So some of the posters and things like that for in-game products had been changed to include a little Snapchat logo, which, of course, if you scan with your phone, would mean that you subscribe to like a Call of Duty Snapchat.
Yeah, lots of brands are using it to engage with people.
Young people. I missed it
Dude,
because
you're like 21.
I hate Snapchat. And I am 23, sir. Coming 24. So the first video is basically just 10-second videos of really weird, they're kind of like hallucinogenic, trippy videos. This one was like of a forest, and there's a guy just saying, you know, listen to my voice and all this stuff. And of course, everyone's dissecting it, looking for any possible clues.
Yeah.
So for example, the first one people saw was like the shadows of the trees. They kind of make a silhouette of 3 in Roman numerals. So everyone's like, well, that's it. It's going to be Black Ops 3. And of course, because they're kind of trippy and hallucinogenic, the narrative of the first Black Ops game, you were playing as Mason, and you were getting interrogated and electrocuted, and it was all kind of trippy flashbacks and numbers flashing up. So a lot of people think that it's relating to, you know, that similar style, and it's going to follow that game. But then, this is where the twist happens, guys. The other possibility is that it could be a continuation of World at War. So it could be World at War 2. Now, the Snapchat account was changed from Call of Duty to Dr. Salim. Okay. Now, people started speculating, thinking that he's a new character inside the games, right? Just imagine me with a coffee pot, some cigarettes. I'm at the office, you know. There's a ceiling fan, silhouetted. I have an interior monologue. It's very dramatic. And they release a new video that's talking about a frozen forest. Okay.
You sound like a crazy person right now. I just want to point out.
Everyone's trying to work it out. It's really fun. I mean, you can see why they do this as a marketing campaign. It gets people excited about the franchise. Now, the Battle of the Bulge in World War II took place in the frozen forest of Belgium. So people are already speculating, saying this is going to be tied into that. Now, this is when I did a little bit of research on my own, okay? So there were a lot of birds in the video. Birds flying, birds pecking. I know how insane I sound. Birds. So I started looking up information on Dr. Salim. I had no idea who this was.
Why would you?
I know, exactly. Dr. Salim is an Indian ornithologist and sometimes referred to as the Birdman of India.
Holy shit.
I know. This is when, you know, everything starts clicking into place. The wheels are moving. But aside from that, he seemed to live a pretty normal life, studied birds and all the different places all over the world.
Yeah.
Until I noticed one article saying that he got funding for migration studies to examine the Kearsaner forest disease, which is an arthropod bone virus.
All right, you lost me now.
But he ran into political difficulties with allegations made about CIA involvement. So...
Is this all your own research?
No, well, most of it is communities, and then I started putting together about him and the birds and the Birdman and all this kind of stuff, which is probably completely wrong. Now, here is my conclusion. I believe the videos are someone suffering with this Kearsaner bird disease.
Okay.
And the person talking is either Dr. Salim or someone trying to calm him down, because he's saying, imagine you're somewhere safe, imagine a forest, and the disease is said to induce headaches and migraines and pains and things like that. So it possibly could be someone suffering with it. But in terms of whether it's World War II or Black Ops 3, if it is tied with the CIA, that obviously wasn't formed until like halfway through World War II. Obviously, everyone knows that. And I do now that I'm on Wikipedia. So I believe that it is Black Ops 3, but maybe similar to the first Black Ops, which is taking place maybe towards the end
60s.
of World War II, and maybe jumping back and forth and things like that. So that is my conclusion. I rest my case.
Is anyone still listening?
I thought it was intriguing. I was so roped into this. I was jotting down all these notes.
I was kind of with you for a while.
The bird disease threw you, didn't it? I could see your face just went to the...
I guess, viral stuff is quite good. There was a lot of stuff with The Last of Us when they started releasing stuff about the clickers and things like that. But this is very elaborate, this is.
It is.
I like it, but it sounds...
Yeah, I think it was kind of cool for me because I was literally like piecing this together. And I was like on articles, and then I'd see something about birds, and I'd be like, wait, birds, and like I'm piecing it together. When of course it's just made so any idiot can work out exactly what's going on.
You've gone down the pigeonhole.
Exactly.
You are our Sherlock Holmes.
I'm trying to be. I'm failing, but I'm trying.
Have you got a favourite viral sort of campaign that you've seen in the past?
That's a really good question.
I liked all the stuff they did for Cloverfield.
Yeah,
I thought that was really interesting.
But I've got a really weird thing with it. Like, I don't know, like small glimpses of giant creatures really freak me out.
It's way more terrifying than the actual.
You better not look in my pants then.
I don't know, Godzilla and giant creatures like that. Like I'm generally afraid of. So the Cloverfield stuff,
they're out there.
They're awful.
They're out there.
So the Cloverfield stuff really did freak me out. But I think the Dark Knight stuff was pretty good. The I Believe in Harvey Dent stuff that was really, really good. The Blair Witch stuff is just incredible. Like I was obsessed with the Blair Witch stuff, because I think I was like 16 when that came out, I think. So, and I just had the internet, so I was just get again as much as I could about the Blair Witch and those, and I completely believed it. I thought it was real. Like,
okay.
That's just didn't know any better.
Worrying.
Yeah.
What a weirdo. I'm just studying the Indian Birdman, but I didn't believe in the Blair Witch Project.
It is cool when it's a mystery or it's a history that they can build,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Are there any that you particularly like that have kind of got you going?
That's what I was just thinking about. There's none that really are coming to mind at the minute. But I mean, I think it's just part of the age we're in now. It's just now that everyone has smartphones and all this information is so accessible.
Yeah.
Just these kind of unconventional approaches to games marketing, film marketing. It's just they seem much more popular these days. Just because information just travels so quickly. Sometimes, little splashes like this can be blown up into much bigger things instead of just saying, here's the game, here's the big announcement. People like to work things out and progress their own ways.
That's why one of the films I'm most excited for this year is Tomorrowland.
Okay.
I mean, it's the new Brad Bird film, it's Disney, there's something to do with the theme parks, and it's time travel maybe, sci-fi, but it's been quite mysterious, and the trailers have been very much teasers rather than trailers.
Yeah.
I guess the most recent trailer showed you a lot more, didn't it, when you saw Hugh Laurie? But I like that. I like that there can be an element of mystery in a blockbuster that I really don't know what I'm letting myself in for. And that, they've tried it with Cloverfield and Super 8 and with, mixed results, but it's hard in this day and age to release something that people don't know everything about.
Exactly, yeah. And I have to say, like with Cloverfield, because I was so terrified of just seeing these tiny little glimpses of the monster behind the building, when you actually see the whole thing, I was just really disappointed.
Yeah, I actually had the same reaction because
Yeah.
when they're going away in the helicopter, isn't it, at the end, and you can see the whole thing, and you're like, oh, I guess what did I expect? You know, it's just a big monster. But it was kind of disappointing because ultimately, whatever is in your imagination is going to be way more terrifying than what they can create.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's saying something very strange for my imagination.
Oh, one thing actually I've just thought about that was really, really good was the David TED Talk. Oh no, not the David TED Talk. The Guy Pearce TED Talk that came out for Prometheus, where he's given like a talk as if he is actually Wayne Utah. What's his name? Who's he playing now?
I've forgotten the guy's name.
When he plays it like that guy in it. Like
I thought you were going to say you only see glimpses of him in the shadows or something
That was
during the
really
TED
good.
Talk.
Yeah, he tells the story of Pythagoras as a TED Talk and then kind of hints at what they might have achieved.
That's right, yeah.
My friend actually worked on that. They spent a
Really,
year
yeah.
doing that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And for ages he was telling me he was doing something that I'd be interested in for the first time, but he couldn't tell me what it was. And then they were going to launch it at Comic-Con, and then he didn't go. It took me ages. And some people tell you that, and I don't always believe them.
Yeah.
That it's going to be something I'm interested in. But then when it finally was that, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And I saw him the other day actually, and said that I thought it was better than the film.
That's good.
His viral was just more. I just thought it was cleverer.
That's the thing, like,
than the whole movie.
When I saw this Call of Duty thing, like, I think that's a really interesting way of using technology and things like that. But then I've heard like, I can't remember. I was in a pub and I was listening to marketing guys talk, and they were talking about Jurassic World. They were obviously pitching for some Jurassic World thing.
Yeah.
And I heard one of them say to the other guy, "I've got a really good idea for what we'll do is when the trailer comes up, we'll use the vibrate function on people's phones, so it'll vibrate like when the dinosaur hits the floor, their phones will vibrate every time they're on this site." And I was thinking, no, it's not. I want to turn around and be like, I would never go back to that website again if that happened. Like absolute maniacs doing some of these marketing campaigns.
I think that would be cool.
Why do you like that?
I think that would be awesome.
It's so intrusive. I don't need that.
I think there's a difference between intrusive and kind of gimmicky.
Yeah.
I think maybe intrusive.
Yeah, but this is both intrusive and gimmicky.
I don't know. I think that would be cool. I like those kind of out of the box ideas. Okay. Not to the point where U2 have an album on my phone and I don't know how it got there. I think that is intrusive. I don't like that.
If Bono went round everyone's house in the night and put it on their phones, he was like Father Christmas.
Father Christmas, down the chimney.
Woke up, they could just hear him struggling to get a USB in. Like, I can't get this in.
He put on the outfit he wore for the Fly video and just flew from house to house.
Other cool stuff has been happening.
Well, I'll jump in because there's something I meant to mention about trying to keep secrets on the internet. And it's been quite interesting this week in that they announced in December that Christoph Waltz was playing Franz Oppenheiser. Oppenheiser?
Oberhauser.
I knew the name was there. In SPECTRE. And then everyone said, no, he's not. He's playing Blofeld.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been it. And the trailer dropped and we did the Rewind Theatre and we were like, yeah, he's playing Blofeld. This week, GQ released an interview in which they asked him, are you playing Blofeld? Christoph Waltz said, that is absolutely untrue, but in a more sort of Germany accent. That rumour started on the internet, and the internet is a pest.
Ooh.
The name of my character is Franz Oberhauser. So, effectively, that's him putting it to bed. But do you believe him? Because I don't believe him at all.
I really do, you know.
Do you?
I think I do as well.
I just think they've, in that teaser, they set up that he's playing Oberhauser. Oberhauser has like a bit, has a basis in the books. He's an actual character that they haven't created. Why then would they add him in as this Blofeld character? Unless he is going to take over the kind of stuff that Blofeld did, but never be called Blofeld. He's going to be called Oberhauser. So maybe it's like a mishmash of everything together. I kind of believe him. Like, why would they go to such strength? Because it just failed for Star Trek, and like failed really publicly as well, where people just hated the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch was saying that he wasn't for ages playing Khan, and then in the film it's like Khan, and it's not a reveal because everyone goes, yeah, all right. I thought that's exactly what we thought. But surely they wouldn't do that again.
I mean, are people thinking that if they thinking that he is going to play Blofeld, thank you, that it's going to be like an origin story? Is that it? That he is playing who he says he's playing, but it's going to lead to him being?
I think so. I think that's what I would speculate it is, that he becomes Blofeld for whatever reason, or Blofeld's the code name that he has in the movie, or his character has, or he is Blofeld, but no one uses the name. But then maybe he isn't Blofeld. Like I'm trying to think. Well, I'm trying to think if he's playing with semantics here. Like maybe we have to.
Okay.
Well, this is what he said. He said, "I'm definitely playing like blah blah blah. I'm not playing. I'm not."
He said the name
Blofeld.
of my character is Franz.
Exactly,
Oberhauser.
which seems like a very oddly specific
But it's
way
just
to
like
word it.
It's kind of
Blofeld is the head of Spectre.
Yeah.
They've just got the rights back to Spectre, the company that make the movies. They've just got the rights back to Blofeld.
Yeah.
I just can't believe they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I'd almost prefer if you're right and that they don't, because as you say, it didn't feel right with Star Trek. It didn't really work.
Yeah.
And it is. I'm writing a feature at the moment which will have a similar theme to this conversation, but it's. You know, is Hollywood right to be doing this? Obviously, they did it with Marion Cotillard in The Dark Knight Rises, where she was playing Miranda Tate, was it?
That's right, yeah.
And it was Talia al Ghul.
That's right.
And she said no, and they asked her point blank. And she gave a similar answer. She said, no, I'm not playing a character from the comics. The character I play has never appeared in the comics. That's just a lie to the press.
Yeah.
This could be a lie to the press. And is it good that the studios are applying pressure to actors to literally lie in every interview they do?
I guess so, but then I guess with Marion Cotillard, the thing that struck me so oddly about that is, when you watch Dark Knight Rises, her character, if she is in Talia al Ghul, is like just such a big waste getting Marion Cotillard, like Oscar-winning Marion Cotillard in. Like, why would you do that for a part? She's barely in it. But then when the reveal happens, it's a big thing. And I think that I don't have such a problem with her lying because of that, because I think she shut down the Talia al Ghul rumours, and I kind of forgot about that until right to the end, where it's revealed, and I was back on board then. Whereas with Benedict Cumberbatch, he's in it throughout. I think also one of the worst ones in Dark Knight Rises is just the horrible bit at the end where Joseph Gordon-Levitt goes to pick up his the thing that Batman has left him, and he goes, "Oh, it might be under my other name, Hand Zero ID." And he's like, "You should use another name. It's really nice." Robin. And everyone's like looking at the camera, like, winking. Hey, Robin, it's Robin. And like that, I don't know. For me, that felt a lot more forced. I don't know.
It's difficult. I can see the problem that we've created ourselves by working for a site like this, for reading them. You know, we want news all the time. We want to know everything about a film before it comes out. And therefore, the studios have got to go to greater and greater lengths to keep surprises and secrets. So I can see how tough it is. If you do want to surprise audiences with something or approach a character that has been on screen before in a different way, they wanted to try and do something different with Khan. They wanted if this is Blofeld, they're trying to do it in a different way to how he's appeared before. But because we can't get enough of it, we just we spoil it for ourselves almost.
I think that's a good point as well. And maybe at some point, the site will kind of evolve a little bit, because I think people are starting to get sick of just knowing every single thing that comes out.
Well, I mean, there's some people, like even with Star Wars, who are refusing to find any updates about the story or anything like that, because and I can respect that if they want to go and be totally surprised and not
you
know
might
anything
feel
about
that
the
people
stories.
like that, but they're not clicking any less on the stories when you run them. But I mean,
hopefully, because we need jobs.
And I don't want to go into spoiler territory. I was thinking, I'm thinking about examples to talk about in the article. Like Seven was a great example. No one knew that Kevin Spacey was in Seven. They kept his name out of the credits, and that was a great reveal. And that was like 2/3 of the way through the film. Yeah. There was another great one when I was a kid, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. No one knew that Sean Connery was the king that would appear at the end. It was just a cameo, but it felt, the whole audience went, the king's back, and it's Sean Connery, the most king-like bloke you can imagine.
Yeah.
And
we talked about it the other day, like Dusk Till Dawn. Like the first time I ever saw Dusk Till Dawn, I thought it was a Quentin Tarantino road movie. And when the reveal happens and vampires start kicking shit out of everyone, I had no idea what was going on. I watched it like late at night. Now the DVD has vampires on the front and bats on the front. So like, there's no way that you can go into that movie not knowing it's a vampire movie.
Yeah, I know. So can you or can't you keep a secret? Like, I don't really want to talk about it, but there was a film that came out at Christmas that had a really good surprise, and they managed to keep it.
They sort of still have.
Yeah, they sort of still have.
So let's carry on with that.
I think it's kind of more difficult as well for like films, example like Spectre, where they literally announcing the cast is a press event and it's streamed live. It's such a huge ordeal, so it's much more difficult for films like that to keep
that's a
bigger
thing.
secrets like
but
this.
But they did that themselves. They didn't have to.
Well, that's true. That's absolutely
Yeah.
true. It's kind of like parents lying to their kids about Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And if they ask, it's like, is it real? You have to tell them no. And you are lying to them, but it's for their own good.
You just compared Christoph Waltz to Santa Claus. Now that's a movie I'd see. Christoph Waltz is Santa Claus. Ho, ho, ho. That's a terrible impression. Well,
Coming down the chimney with Bono.
It's going to be interesting anyway. We'll see how this one rumbles on, but I guess we'll find out come October, November time.
Yeah, excellent.
Gavin?
Mad Men is back.
Woo!
Thankfully, I was so excited for the first episode of it's the 8th episode.
Yeah, it's 8th episode.
8th episode, but they split the final season into 2 parts, so it's the first episode since they've been back. And have you seen it?
No,
it's a great episode.
because it's on tonight, isn't it?
I won't spoil it. But we get access to things.
I haven't had access to it yet. No, I'll be watching it this weekend. Yeah. Is it good?
It's really, really good. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's perfect. Sort of, you can see that time has passed in a really, really fun way. Don is still he sort of was kind of losing it towards the end. He seems like he's a tiny bit back on track. But all the characters, all the best characters have their own really, really cool scene in the first episode, and it only hit me as I was watching it. One, how hard it is to go back to watching something week by week, which is solid. Because I saw there was 3 minutes left on the episode that I was watching, and I was just so sad. But also, it's hit me that Mad Men is actually going to be over.
Yeah, it's coming to the end.
Yeah, and I'm not excited for it to end. I just don't want it to end.
No, but you know what? It'd be good for it to stop before it peters out or becomes something you don't like anymore.
I guess so.
Because anything that goes on too long does that. I think keep them wanting more.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of things being released in one, though, what is released this weekend in one massive
Well, I was going to
hit?
say what also ended this week was Better Call Saul.
Okay.
As well. Did anyone around the table watch that?
No,
Didn't.
unfortunately
Unbelievable. So I won't
Yeah.
talk about it.
I know, it's
Yeah.
so bad.
I haven't watched the last episode yet. I really enjoyed it though.
I watched the first 3 episodes and then stopped, and I don't know why I stopped, because I was having a good time watching it.
Yeah,
but
the episode with Mike you saw, did you? Yeah, that was a really good one.
Yeah.
That was the one where I was like, this is Breaking Bad good now.
And I stopped watching after
Yeah.
that.
Why would you
there's
stop after that one?
But there was something in me that I'm not compelled to watch it, even though I was enjoying it. I think Mike McKean plays an amazing character in it.
Yeah.
He's so good.
It's got off to a reasonably slow start, but
Okay.
then again, I feel like Breaking Bad got off to a reasonably slow
Yeah,
start.
Definitely,
you
So
kind of
it's
have
got
to lay the ground.
it's got
if gonna be a
time.
big story
Yeah.
like
and it's
that.
tonally slightly different, but no, you're right. There is something coming this week though, and it's Daredevil.
Boom.
Daredevil, which should be dropping on Netflix at about the same time as this podcast drops on iTunes.
Don't tell that, because then...
Well, no.
people
So
listening will watch
listen
it.
to this and then
Competition,
watch that.
exactly.
Watch this, then watch that. I've seen the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
It's weird. I watched it with Rich and Dan, but we haven't spoken about it. I know we're going to do a superhero show on it a little bit, but I thought it was good without it blowing my mind.
Right.
Okay.
I heard
Are you a Daredevil
everyone's-
fan, though?
I like the character,
Yeah.
but it's not one of my favourites.
Okay.
So yeah, it was. I felt like it was on a level with kind of Arrow, the start of Arrow.
Oh,
But,
no, don't say that.
a bit better, but I think there's a lot of characters haven't been introduced yet. It's
Okay,
only episode 2. He's just what I thought he'd be.
Okay.
He's quite likable without being hugely charismatic or.
Have they kind of established anything with the Kingpin yet, or
No.
no? Okay.
No, I don't
Well, 'cause I'm
want to. I
excited.
don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah,
but
okay,
he hasn't,
yeah,
he hasn't
sorry,
even
sorry.
shown up yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's good. It's a solid. It's a really solid start, and I guess I've still got 8 episodes to go. So it's just like the first bit of a movie, really.
Yeah.
But tonally, it's nicely done. It's very dark.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Every time I go back to the trailers, because obviously I was out, so I didn't get to take a look at the first episodes. But it just looks so dark, and I mean, I
Yeah.
guess
Really dark.
It does
Some
really kind
horrible
of play
stuff
into
goes down in the comics.
Some-
Daredevil for
some
me,
grim stuff.
when I was growing up, Daredevil was my Batman. I
Yeah.
much preferred him to Batman. I just think he's an interesting character, and I think the best thing about Daredevil is not only is his alter ego really interesting,
Yeah.
Matt Murdock is one of the most interesting sort of alter egos of a superhero I think that there is in comics. And I like a lot of the time, in sort of like the Bendis run, you don't see Daredevil for ages. In sort of the courtroom stuff, because it's a really, really cool mechanic to have a courtroom thing, because courtroom dramas are pretty interesting as well.
Yeah.
And if
So-
you do them both enough
exactly.
justice, then there's no reason why they can't be as big as each other.
Exactly, yeah.
You don't really see that in a lot of superhero films where the alter ego is as big as a character as the actual superhero themselves.
It's interesting, isn't it?
I feel weird talking about having only seen 2. Maybe we'll revisit it next week when
Definitely,
everyone
yeah.
will have seen it. So let us know
Yeah.
what you guys think. IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com.
Excellent.
And Gav, one other bit of comic book news that's blown our minds, or actually just
Being
reaffirmed something that we knew.
The Russo brothers being confirmed to direct Infinity Wars 1 and 2, which is awesome.
So in 10 years' time, they will have directed 5 of the biggest movies of all time.
That's right.
Like 5 $200-300 million movies in a row. 2 TV directors.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I mean, that's really
good.
cool.
I don't want to be trusted with that amount of responsibility. That is terrifying.
I'm glad that they're going, if they're directing Civil War, Captain America Civil War, I'm glad that it's them then going on to do Infinity War, because it almost seems like that's a continuation of that sort of storyline. So it seems logical for them to carry that
Keep it consistent.
Yeah.
I listened to a really long interview with them the other day from a while back now.
Okay.
But it was when Captain America came out, and it was very interesting, them talking about how long the pitch process was for them to prove to Marvel that they could do it. And then once they had it, how it was like a year with Marvel developing the Captain America story with them to make sure it worked.
Wow.
And he said it was the toughest thing we've ever done, but brilliant, because by the time it got to shooting the film, we knew everything we were doing. There wasn't a question in our mind.
Yeah.
And that's just brilliant. Like, it's like a training, like an assault course that Marvel put you through.
Yeah, that's good.
I guess there's an element of, it's our way, or you're off, like what happened with Edgar Wright on Ant-Man.
Yeah.
But the Russos just obviously have, like, whatever they're doing is what Marvel wants to do, and so...
Well, they had to work with Dan Harmon, and I can't imagine that was very easy. So I'm sure they were probably prepared for that quite well.
That's why I always find it strange when a big film like one of these superhero films flops. Because there's so much work that goes in, and it's such a timely process where you feel like everything, films don't move forward unless the script is 100%, happy with
they
it.
do. Films move into production before the script's finished.
Maybe it's just the way they're working.
Ryan Reynolds
with
was talking about this with like Green
I was
Lantern.
going to say Green Lantern,
I
mean,
mean,
they didn't even get the script, right? I thought it was something like they moving forward with the
I mean,
film,
if you
they
look
hadn't
at
read
most of the bad superhero movies, you'll find that the script wasn't finished or it changed while they were making it.
Yeah.
That you're what are the bad, like the original Daredevil?
Yeah.
Superman 4, I only talk about that because that was on. I was reading about that this week.
You're always talking about Superman 4.
It's because
it's your Birdman of India. You need to let it go.
Yeah.
Chris.
Sam Ashurst did a list of Superman movies, and it was almost like in defense of Superman 4. He was kind of saying it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Like it's one of the great purely Superman movies because of the message, and it was like, it's still awful.
So contrary, Sam.
He put Man of Steel above Superman the movie.
Yeah, he loves Man of Steel.
Yeah, big fan.
Properly.
Big fan of that one.
Yeah. But the thing is, what I was thinking about the Russo brothers, though.
Yeah.
So I first became aware of them on Community because they directed some amazing Community episodes, the Dungeons and Dragons one, the paintball ones, a couple of them.
I love the paintball ones.
But if they're doing Civil War and they're going on to do Infinity War, like there was such a huge thing around Donald Glover being Spider-Man. Like they wanted Donald Glover to play Spider-Man. And they put Abed from Community in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
He has a little cameo in it.
Yeah.
Is it beyond, like, if they haven't announced who Spider-Man is it beyond them to be able to push so hard enough to get Donald Glover on as Spider-Man?
Well, as they've said that it's going to be a very young Spider-Man, that's the only sticking block.
Yeah.
Really, I don't think it's like the colour of his skin. I think they could easily mix that up. I just think because they've said everywhere that it's a teenage kid, and Donald Glover's about 40.
Yeah.
Isn't it? How old is he? About mid-30s, isn't he?
He looks young.
He looks young, but
clean
he's
shaven, a baseball cap, and
he's just a bit too old now, I
Yeah.
think. It's a shame. He would have been great.
He'd been amazing.
I wonder how much sway the directors have with matters like these. Because, I mean, I understand maybe it's like smaller roles, but, for someone to play Spider-Man, I think that's out of your hands.
When it comes to Marvel, the directors don't have a huge amount of say. Even Joss Whedon doesn't have it. He has a huge amount of say over the dialogue and some of the action, but he's told what characters to use. He's told what villains, where the action scenes need to take place, and then he has to write the script around that.
That's crazy.
Again, I was listening to quite a long podcast with him, and it was really interesting. Like, that's why I think Wasp is going to become a big character in this universe, because he wrote a script, an Avengers script, where Wasp was in it because they weren't getting Scarlett Johansson.
Right.
So they needed this female character to do this and that, and that was written, and then they got Scarlett and just rewrite it. Like he's just being told what to do.
That's crazy.
But he's someone that he worked in TV for 20 years, so he can roll with the punches and just do this stuff.
And some people, some directors just work better with a confined amount of space.
People do, yeah.
It's the opposite of the auteur theory, really.
Yeah.
This is not. It's Joss Whedon's vision, but this is a huge company's vision at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll ever, at some point, be able to get Edgar Wright in, and talk about exactly what happened and why he walked away? Like, do you think he would ever do that to his career?
I don't think he'd want to.
No.
We can get him in.
No, not that. But I mean, like, do you think he'll ever actually reveal it? It'd be interesting. I mean, he's not the kind of like, he does talk a lot in the kind of almost the same way as Kevin Smith does. And Kevin Smith pretty much tell you everything. I wonder if I'd really like to know the story.
I think there's an element of him not wanting to burn his bridges there, and vice versa as well. Like, no one's going to slap the other one off right now because you never know. There might be something they can work on in the future.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, I was excited.
All right, what's been annoying us this week? What's been peeing us off?
Well, there's one straight up at the top, which is probably the worst thing that's happened this week.
Is it, though? I actually don't think it is, even though I put it in this category.
It kind of sucks.
So a series of really tweets from David Lynch came out last week about the Twin Peaks reboot that was supposed to be happening next year. And he wrote, "Dear Twitter friends, Showtime did not pull the plug on Twin Peaks. After 1 year and 4 months of negotiations, I left because not enough money was offered to do the script the way I felt it needed to be done. This weekend, I started to call actors to let them know I would not be directing. Twin Peaks may still very much be alive at Showtime. I love the world of Twin Peaks and wish things could have worked out differently." So awkward. And then Showtime released a statement saying, "We were saddened to read David Lynch's statement today, since we believe we were working towards solutions with David and his reps on the few remaining deal points. Showtime also loves the world of Twin Peaks, and we continue to hold out hope that we can bring it back in all its glory with both of its extraordinary creators, David Lynch and Mark Frost, at its helm." So it stalled over money.
It sounds like it was almost a bit of a surprise to the studio as well, which is really strange.
It's not money that he wanted, though. It's money that he wanted, the actual budget rather than
needed for
money.
the film.
Right?
No, I left because not enough money was offered to do the script the way I felt it needed to be done.
Okay.
I don't know. You can read that a couple of ways, can't you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of these deals break down because of money and because of wages and things, but we don't get to hear that.
Okay.
We're told creative differences and things like that.
Yeah.
He's gone public with it. So either he's playing hardball with them, saying, look at what the public reaction to this is.
Yeah.
You got to do this with me. I want another $5 million.
Yeah.
Or he just might be being very honest and saying he's done with that world. But
have you seen the actors video that they put out?
No.
So it's really, really good. It's like, you should check it out. So it's basically Twin Peaks without David Lynch is like, and they have all the cast say it's like pie without cherries and things like that.
Right.
So they have all the cast film their own little sections going. Twin Peaks without David Lynch is like, and everyone does their own.
Oh,
really
wow.
good thing. And it's really good because you get to see all the cast. Like, I haven't seen some of them for a while. And it's also,
it's kind of an adorable idea.
They're filmed in a variety of sort of quality and ways and things like that. But it's an interesting video.
So that makes you sound like they're on his side. So
yeah, definitely.
But at the same time, a lot of them haven't had a huge amount of success since that show ended. So this is kind of getting some of them back on track.
Exactly.
So this is a cash cow that they're potentially kind of kissing goodbye to.
But I don't think it would never go ahead without him, I guess. How many episodes did he direct? Like, is it 6 or 9? Or it's something like that. It's not very many, but he was the executive producer, so he saw, he oversaw everything. But can you do it without him? Would it, the backlash on it would just be terrible, I think.
I think you'd get a lot of people boycotting it.
Yeah.
I really do. I wouldn't watch it.
No.
To be honest, I didn't like the idea of it anyway.
Yeah.
I just didn't want it back. And I love the show, but I feel like it was very much of its time, of its place. It changed TV. And I don't think you need to go back 25 years later when everyone's older and try and recapture that, because there was a magic to it.
Yeah.
And a weirdness. And I just feel myself sitting there thinking they're trying too hard now to kind of...
That's the thing. I think
regain.
some of the stuff that, like, when you rewatch it now, and I've rewatched it really recently, it's good, but it's quirky in a way that is interesting, but it's not an easy watch. Like, a lot of people talk about Twin Peaks in this sort of like this really odd sort of but still funny, almost like Tim Burton-ish way. It's not like that at all. It's not easy to watch, that show. And I think if it came out now,
it was just unique at the time as well.
Exactly.
And, there's been pretenders to it, and there's been stuff that like it, and there's stuff that's maybe done it better, a True Detective or something. But I've never gone back to watch it either. I just don't. I just want it to remain what it was, which was amazing, mind blowing at the time. And Twin Peaks: Fire and Water is one of the scariest films I've ever seen, even though it seemed to get terrible reviews across the board. But it's just there. It's of a play. And I was a certain age as well. Like, I don't think I want to see it now. I'm an old man.
So you think this would be it for the show? Do you think they would continue with a different director? Or would
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But I wouldn't be surprised if they actually renegotiate with him.
You think so? Because
Yeah.
usually when these kind of issions and problems go public, I never really see it resolved.
Is there a famous one that has
That's what
been
I was trying to
resolved
think.
publicly?
Yeah, like
You can think of?
after a big public feud.
Yeah, I just can't think of one right now. I can. There are some where people have just gone balls
Sorted
out
stuff
and got
out
what they
and
wanted. Yeah.
Well, there we are.
What have you got, Gav? Anything that's been annoying you?
Not so much annoying, but it doesn't fit into the good one. It doesn't fit into the good category. So it's more like grey. The Star Wars, the first Star Wars 6 films are being released digitally for the very first time.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, but they're the 2004 DVD releases, so they're the sort of tinkered with ones, which has pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just want to see the original one because they haven't been able to see them anywhere for ages legally. I think you can obviously torrent them and stuff like that, but they're still not, properly remastered or anything like that. So I think a lot of people are a little bit annoyed that they don't have that choice to be able to watch a fully like HD remastered version of the original trilogy. But that's what that Star Wars as it exists now. That's what it is. And like me and Dan did a Rebel Base this week, which you can check out, which is about our favourite, the best changes that George Lucas made to the films. And like I think a lot of people don't realise as well that he went back and changed. It wasn't just the original trilogy he was tinkering with. Like when Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith all went to DVD, he made changes to all of them because for budget reasons he couldn't do. I think the famous ones they took Yoda, who was a puppet in Phantom Menace, and made him the CGI one, which is what he'd intended to do all along, but just ran out of time for whatever reason. So there are some good changes to them, I think, and like you can watch on Rebel Base, like the ones that we really, really think. Like one of them that I think is perfect example is they change Emperor Palpatine in Empire Strikes Back, because at that point Ian McDiarmid hadn't signed on. But then he signed on for Return of the Jedi. So you see him as the Emperor in Return of the Jedi. But then in Empire Strikes Back, the Emperor that you see is it's actually Rick Baker's wife with chimpanzee eyes sort of superimposed on her face and a different guy's voice as well.
Which I wish they kept.
Sounds amazing.
Mrs. Baker. Put the chimp eyes.
Exactly. So there are a couple of changes. So that's the thing. It's a cool bit of news, but it's also not the most amazing news that people have
every
wanted.
time I hear people bring up about the the changes that they made, it always seems to be people talking about the negative ones and highlighting all the negative changes. You really like the kind of really unnecessary things that were thrown in there for the sake of being capable of adding them in now. But I never really see people highlight just the if you go back and watch even some like the original lightsaber battles and things like that, some of the effects just look, because you're used to some of the new films where it just looks fantastic and you really take it for granted. And then when you go back and watch the originals, there are definitely some good changes to the films.
But they're allowed to look like that. They were made in 1977.
That's true.
And I know it lacks consistency across the 6 films, or however many there's going to be now, but so be it. It's of a time and a place that it's what we were reared on, and that's how I saw it. It's just, as everyone agrees, I think, you just want the choice.
Yes.
He can have his versions, and a new generation can have that version, and maybe people that grew up on the originals can have their version.
Yeah.
But we're not being given that at the moment. But there are some new extras as well, aren't there? There's some new documentaries and things. We've got a clip on the site about the Millennium Falcon, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, well, it's about time.
Yeah.
And I believe there is something else. Another TV show is returning, is it not, Gav?
It is, yeah. And we've talked about this for the last 2 weeks on the podcast, so I had to stick it in again. But it has been almost 100% confirmed.
It has been confirmed.
It has, okay. Arrested Development
Executive producers
is coming back for more episodes. So kind of, like you and Twin Peaks, even though it's not on that kind of level. Like, I love the first 3 series and kind of wish they just left it there.
Yeah.
But
I'm a little bit different because I'm the same. Absolutely love the first seasons. I think I was a little bit more forgiving of the fourth than people. I didn't come at it with a too critical of a mind. I was pretty just excited about it coming back. So I generally enjoyed the fourth season, and I think a lot of the restrictions they had with creating that season, like the conflicting schedules that meant they had to shoot a lot of things apart and kind of tie it all together. I don't think that's going to be a problem in the new season.
Why?
I just don't think it will be.
Based on nothing.
Well, I mean, if
they were busy then, they're going to be even more freaking busy now.
If they knew it was a concern and it caused so many issues, I don't think they would be moving forward with another season facing those exact same scheduling
Well,
issues.
you heard it here first. This is an IGN exclusive. There are some scheduling issues on the new season of Arrested Development.
I like how you put so much effort into that fucking viral thing of Call of Duty.
Dr. Salim was the Birdman of India. I want everyone to know that. Migration studies, okay? Don't forget this.
Is there any more info you had about any of the other stories you're not telling us? Has David Lynch resigned?
I started with the Black Ops one, and then I blinked, and an hour had gone by, and I was neck deep in the conspiracy of the century.
Well, I'm still working on getting a prominent Arrested Development cast member in here for the podcast.
So you wish we stopped putting it in the podcast?
Next
month.
Them off. No, I'm just saying we'll get the skinny from this person and hope they don't listen to previous episodes like this one.
I bet they won't have any scheduling problems, so they could probably
maybe that's why you can't get him in.
Should we do some feedback?
Let's do it.
I'm going to start off. So last week we talked about age ratings with games, whether parents should be responsible for what kids watch, how responsible teachers should be. It's a very complicated issue, and we got some really great feedback.
Okay.
I'll kick off with a piece of feedback from Travis Bowditch, who says, when deciding what games your kids can play, it's a lot more complicated than you think. There are things that scare us as grown-ups because we understand what they mean, and many things that don't scare us because we know when it's fantasy, but can terrify a child. Personally, I think the most responsible thing to do is play the game with your children. Letting them play anything without helping an adult to help filter and provide context to new information is when kids learn the wrong things. I saw a lot of films not intended for children, but always with my parents to explain and assure me what I was seeing was or wasn't real, or what it might mean to me. Travis is an avid gamer, and he's actually given a bunch of examples of games that he's played with his kids and how you might not think it would be weird or upsetting, but actually it's more complicated than you think.
Right.
I'm not going to read them all out, but I'll read out the names of the games. Tell me if you want how it went with him and his kid.
Well, how old's his kid?
I think 7-year-old boy.
Okay, so
or a 5-year-old girl as well.
Okay.
How about if you read the name of the game, and then we'll say if we would allow our hypothetical child to play it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll start with a tough one here. Try explaining alcoholism and child abuse to a 7-year-old boy.
Just don't. Why have you exposed him to that in the first place?
Papa and Yo, that is. Have you heard?
Papa and Yo?
I shouldn't have started with that one.
What is this?
In fairness, maybe that's not an adult game. Maybe that's a child game, and he's drinking and falling over and stuff like that. That happens. You've got to explain that. That happens in Dumbo.
Game.
Dumbo gets drunk. You have to explain what getting pissed is to your kid. So sorry, I shouted then, but I'm not.
What about this game? Horrific aliens, ghost and zombie-like creatures, fast and brutal. My son loved it. It's basically Mighty Morphin Power Rangers power costumes. No fear at all.
Yes.
That's a big game.
That's a big game.
Do you know what it is?
No, I don't think so. Street Fighter?
Halo?
Destiny.
Oh, I was kind of close.
Yeah, I mean, the violence in Destiny isn't, I wouldn't say graphic, but there's a lot of shooting people, there's a lot of killing.
But it's all kind of the fantasy,
Aliens
alienized,
and stuff like that.
Exactly.
All right, how about this one? Fairly brutal fighter game. It's like a cartoon for them. They're not bothered at all.
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter?
Injustice, Gods Among Us.
I was going to say Mortal Kombat.
Injustice, that's fair enough.
Side-scroller.
That's got loads of... But then I guess that is super violent.
But it's cartoony, like it wasn't...
Cartoony. I mean, it's all superheroes as well.
And it's not quite like Mortal Kombat, where it's like literally ripping people apart and horrible kind of stuff.
What about this one? Daughter hid every time the dragon characters were on the screen.
Skyrim?
I have no idea.
Journey,
okay.
I never played Journey.
Journey is an odd one because there's some weird stuff going on in Journey, like existential, odd sort of feelings and things like that. Plus, you're playing with other people as well. You're playing. You can play multiplayer online. You can't speak to them, so that's good. But I don't know if I'd let my kid play Journey because I just don't think they would get anything out of it.
Well, this one, fine on creative, lots of fighting with each other. The pressure during survival mode took some getting used to.
Minecraft,
yeah. Indeed. Obviously, Minecraft is a big one for kids, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think we've got more on that. But it's really interesting. There's some good stuff here, Trav. It's just really interesting how different games can affect children in different ways. That
he obviously knows his kids, and he knows, he's sitting down with them and, playing
explaining this stuff. Yeah.
But then, that's fair enough. But then what we're talking about is how to police this stuff and how to regulate it. And by that, they're talking about, what if his kid goes in now and starts talking about Destiny with someone, with a little child who can't deal with it, and his kid's parents not there. This is what this entire thing about schools getting involved has happened with.
Mm-hmm. And I think we got more emails on that front.
Rory. Yeah, I've got another one here.
I've got 3.
Rory, come on.
Here it is. I'm writing in about last week's topic of kids playing over games that they aren't supposedly old enough for. My son is 10 years old, and I'm comfortable with him playing a game like Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed, both of which he has a good collection of. I do draw the line with certain games, though. Recently, Gears of War has been revealed as Game of the Month with gold, and I feel like something like this is a step too far. I'm comfortable that he wouldn't start running around pretending to be Marcus Phoenix, screaming Razor Hail at his friends, but I feel like this game contains too much gore and is a bit too dark for him. Similarly, I wouldn't let him play GTA, as I believe it's massively inappropriate. As a gamer myself, I've normally played these games first so I can get a gauge of what's included. I do understand certain parents, members of the public who don't play games themselves, getting upset at the thought of a 10-year-old playing a game like COD, but I know he understands that it's just a video game.
But then he completely goes against what he's saying. He's saying that he'll let him play Call of Duty because he knows it's just a video game, but then he won't let him play Gears. But what about the Call of Duty level from Modern Warfare 3, where you have to gun down a bunch of civilians as a terrorist? How do you explain to a child who's 10 years old that that's just a video game? I don't agree with that.
Well, I don't know, because he didn't specify which of the Call of Duty titles that he was playing. Yeah. Because a lot of them... a lot of the more recent ones, I mean, there is violence involved, but a lot of the people who are playing the Call of Duty games are playing it for the online multiplayer.
That's right,
and the competitive side of it, which, there's nothing wrong. There's no gore, if any gore at all, in that it's basically just competitive shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst things you're going to get with games like that is the online community, which can be way worse than
which is why these games have these age ratings.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just think, obviously, parents know their kids. That's absolutely fine, but that's not the issue here at all. It's not just about your kids. And this is an interesting one. This is from Cameron Hill, who's a teacher. Says, I really have to engage in what you guys were talking about ratings in episode 274. I'm a grade 5 teacher at a small rural primary school of about 210 students. I've been there for 7 years and I've seen a complete generation change in kids when it comes to games and movies. It really struck a nerve as I and my colleagues are so frustrated with the parenting of this generation of kids. I would say out of 22 students, more than half have played GTA 5 and regularly play Call of Duty online. What has struck me, though, is the behaviour of these kids in this generation are more violent and less focused. And then they go on to say, this is all about poor parenting. And, they're basically, teachers are becoming parents now because kids who are being allowed to play Call of Duty are going to come in, having played Call of Duty, talking with their friends about it. Those kids are going to go away, one, knowing what's in Call of Duty, but then putting pressure on their parents as well.
Yeah.
I think I had an argument with my sister because she let my niece watch Made in Chelsea, and the only way is Essex, and she's 11 years old. I really had a massive argument. I couldn't believe that she was letting her watch that absolute shite, because they're not good role models at all. But my sister said, look, you try telling your daughter that she can't watch something that her entire friendship group is watching, and then she is just basically, her friends are sort of not bullying her, but you get left behind because of her.
Yeah, it's got to be difficult as a parent.
I don't agree with that, but
you're kind of faced with that choice whether to, alienate your kids in a sense from something. And I guess it's because games like Minecraft and Call of Duty are such a huge part of a kid's life and a kid's culture. It's got to be really difficult to draw the line. And I think, there are some games that you can gore settings and customize the level of graphic violence and things like that. But obviously that only affects to a certain degree. When I was growing up, my parents were actually pretty strict with this kind of stuff. Yeah. So I remember I got a Nintendo 64 for Christmas one year, and it came with GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64, which I think at the time was rated at 12.
Right.
And I was 11. and they literally wouldn't let me play the game until I turned 12. And I think
did you have any other games? You're just sitting there just looking at the console, like any day
I had
now.
Majora's Mask, which is infinitely more terrifying.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm a very rare case because I think when I got it, I was like, it's fine, I can play it. So I started playing at the start, and I had nightmares. And I mean, it's so weird to think, because you look back, and these are like the most square, unhuman, unrealistic things in the world. You're walking around like a block person, like shooting people. And at the time, awesome. And I had weird dreams that I was like shooting people and stuff.
Yeah. That's why they have those age ratings there, because you can't handle it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just. It makes sense. I do get the importance of being a parent and playing through these games. And kind of, children are different as well. There are some kids who are able to handle this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There are some who aren't. That being said, with my parents being strict, there were films like The Matrix and things that were above my age rating, but my parents would be like, this is a great film. We think you're old enough, that kind of thing. So I guess it's a level of balance. But I mean, I had that growing up. Like, I didn't get to see films that my friends had seen just because my parents were a bit more strict with this kind of thing. And it's difficult at the time, but, these things kind of pass.
Yeah.
And you just got to, it's your own judgment if your child can deal with it or not.
I got an email from Den who says, just listen to the podcast where you were talking about censorship and ratings. I'm 23 now, and growing up, I can only remember 2 times my parents wouldn't let me watch certain things. The first was when South Park first came out on Channel 4. I told my dad to tape it for me, which he did. However, after recording it, he told me in the morning I'm not allowed to watch it because it was filth and rubbish. He wasn't very good at hiding things, so I ended up watching it anyway while he was at work.
Yeah.
It is filth, but it's not rubbish. The other thing I was told I can't watch was The Exorcist, when my older sister had borrowed it. My mum said that she had watched it when she was younger and it really disturbed her, so she didn't want me watching it. Apart from these, though, I was pretty much allowed to watch and play whatever I wanted. I think my parents did a good job enough raising me so that I knew what was acceptable and what was not in real life. I didn't have any trouble separating film and video games from real life. I think the rating systems we have on games and films are a good indicator for parents. But I think you should still always make your own mind up what your kids can watch and play. For me, though, I feel like because the violent games I was playing didn't look at all realistic because of bad graphics or physics, it was easy for me to separate that from reality. I do wonder if the Oculus Rift will make that more difficult to do for young children in the future.
I don't think as a kid, though, you would recognise, there's bad graphics in this. You wouldn't reckon, you're only saying that because you're looking back on it now. And the same as, you're only saying like GoldenEye is all blocky because you're looking back now. At the time, there's no way you would have gone, this isn't realistic. You'd have gone, no, this is like the best thing that is out there right now.
Exactly. I'm sure in 10 years from now, we'll be looking back at games that we think is groundbreaking. And we'll be like, this looks like the
If stuff becomes more immersive, though, is it not more harder to make that separation?
I guess so, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, the big fear about playing the board game of Dungeons and Dragons, that people were getting lost in this fantasy world and not being able to come out. So it's
was
been
that really a thing?
Yeah, it was a thing. There was
true.
supposedly murders based on people that were into the game, and it was like, well, no, it was all crazy. It all seemed crazy, but
that's the thing. I mean, there's always going to be some kind of like moral panic about something.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, video games are huge. So at the moment, it's not.
Just in the spotlight at the minute for like the media scare.
Heavy metal music must be just like so happy that video games because they had it rough for a bit, but now we've moved on to video games, so it's fine.
But it's great getting those emails, and we can keep talking about this. It's interesting what parents are going through, what teachers are going through, and what you as yourself as kids are going through. You know, so let us know. Should we move on to something more lighthearted?
Please. Thank you, Rory.
I have an email here from Kevin Tarn. So me and a few fellow Duck Hunters got into a bit of a debate about the current gen of consoles, and more specifically their life cycle. So my question is, do you think PlayStation and Xbox will stick to the 10-year life cycle of their consoles, or could we see another console in 3 or 4 years because they're already struggling to run games at 60 frames per second, 1080p?
Well, I don't think they are struggling to do that. I think developers are just struggling to make games that are using the console to its full capacity. I mean, if you look at like GTA 5, that came out right at the end of the 360 and PS3's life, but they're still able to run it. I think you know, it's so early doors for these consoles yet, and developers don't know how to use them to their full capacity yet. So I don't think so. I mean, I have no opinion about the 10-year thing.
Yeah, but I think it's still too early on in the game to. I mean, the consoles. When a console originally launches, for example, the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, the approach that people have to making games for that console drastically changes from the launch date to the final date. Yeah. I mean, like the way that people are going about making the games are just completely different. And even more recently, there were games that were unlocking certain parts of the Xbox One to give more CPU power to increase the game's potentials. And I think you might see a bit more of that, especially with like the PlayStation 4. I think I agree with you. I mean, consoles are too big and too expensive of a piece of equipment to have a shorter life cycle than that.
I don't think people put up with that. I've got an email from Stephen Lamont, which I really love. The subject is current gen / next gen confusion - solution. I listen to a lot of podcasts, particularly gaming ones, and for some time now I've noticed a common problem when discussing the console generations. For example, most people talk about current gen, next gen, last gen, new gen, etc. But this can cause confusion for the listener, because we might know what type of console the speaker is referring to. My solution to this problem is simple. So this is a simple solution.
I'm so excited.
Why don't we refer to them by their number? Xbox 360, PS3 and Wii were 7th generation, and Xbox One, PS4 and Wii U are 8th generation. 7th gen, 8th gen. Simple. In the years to come, it also makes sense when talking about truly next gen, because we could say 9th generation, and it makes sense to everyone. Does it, Stephen?
Absolutely nailed it.
I'm on board with Stephen here.
Absolutely nailed it. Who do we need to speak to make this happen?
I'll get on a blower with everyone now.
Yeah.
And I have an email to finish off from a friend of the podcast, Carl Barrett, who says, "Hey guys and Duck Hunt. A few weeks ago you mentioned binge watching shows, and whenever I binge watch a show, I tend to forget what happens a lot more than if I just watch one episode a week.
Yeah.
When I came to watch season 3 of House of Cards, I'd forgotten a lot of season 2, which I'd binge watched. This is probably because there was not a week between episodes, and therefore no time to think about the individual episodes and what might happen in the next.
Yeah.
This is why I will still be taking my time with Daredevil, and why watching Better Call Saul once a week was a refreshing experience. Am I alone in this, or do you have the same problem?"
I sort of am, but I'm sort of not. I kind of do agree on the House of Cards things, definitely, because that did happen to me. I watched all in one, and then by the time season 2 came along, I hadn't done a refresh and had a look, and I'd only ever watched it once.
Yeah.
But it absolutely killed me seeing that there was only 3 minutes left of Mad Men, and knowing that I had to wait an entire week to be able to see another one. Like, absolutely killed me. So
I don't really get with the side of like memory, like I don't want to binge it because I'll forget what happened, but I don't really mind this kind of weekly format, because I kind of like, with Game of Thrones for example, I kind of like being in the hype and being with the community and watching an episode. Then you have the whole week to like talk about it and get excited for the next one, and it makes it a bit more of an ordeal. I think if someone gave me the opportunity to watch all of Game of Thrones, the new season, straight in a row, I wouldn't want to do it. I'd want to stick with the that is a rash claim.
I watched the first 3 series of Game of Thrones. By the time I came to it, there was 3 full series to watch, so I watched it all like that.
I was the same. I had to binge just to catch up with people.
But watching the 4th one and having to wait week to week, you're right, it was hard, but at the same time I did generally enjoy sort of like one of my favorite websites is Vulture, and I think they do their TV stuff amazingly. Like after I watched Mad Men, I went on Vulture, and there was just so many amazing articles about different tiny bits that people had noticed. And last year, they started getting this, like, just all over the internet. There was these really weird sort of rumors and conspiracy theories about Mad Men, and I don't think you would get that in the same way if people didn't have this sort of week to pontificate over, tiny bits of an episode.
It may be like a cliffhanger, but then if you have it being streamed to you, you just breeze right through it. You don't have that time to look up ludicrous theories about Indian bird doctors.
Exactly.
You need that time.
And I like that week for it to percolate in my mind as well.
Yeah.
And it's partly because we've been programmed that way from watching TV all my life when it was once a week. This is all brand new, this binge watching. Or it's pretty new, I guess. Box Set started it off, but I still like having time to think about it, especially when it's something like Mad Men, where there's a lot going on under the surface, and it's more like kind of an atmosphere and a tone to it that kind of you're in that world, and more than 1 or 2 in a row, and I just feel like I'm not getting as much out of it as when I'm fresh to it each time.
I've never watched Mad Men in a block either, so I think maybe that's why I'm pining to watch it like that. But even though I'm really not, because I've always watched it like pretty much from the beginning, so I've always had to watch it week by week.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know, but there are sometimes when something ends. When an episode ends and you're just like, oh man, I could watch another couple of episodes of that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just that feeling.
Something like 24 felt very Moorish. Because of the way it was designed to end on a cliffhanger each week. So those kind of shows, I think it works a bit better for. Yeah. But I agree with you. I liked and this I liked Better Call Saul. I liked waiting a week between each of those.
Yeah. Why do you think they released it like that?
Because it was airing on the TV each week in the States.
Right,
it's not a Netflix show in the States. It's on a
right,
TV channel.
okay.
So
it's only Netflix in the UK?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So it's the
I didn't know
same
that.
sort of deal that they had with the last season of Breaking Bad then, because we had that like every week as well.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Interesting. So what is out this week? I hear games-wise, we've got something to do with bread.
Yeah, I Am Bread is out, which sounds ridiculous. It's actually quite good.
Yeah, I like the look of it.
Yeah, it's Bossa Studios, who like North London or East London, and they did a game called Surgeon Simulator.
Love Surgeon
which,
Simulator.
Like, yeah, it's just like an internet favorite,
So much
basically, where you pretend to be a surgeon. And this is a kind of similar. They're really good at sort of like physics-based stuff.
Yeah.
And with this, you control every corner of a piece of bread, and your mission, as you know, most bread, like their main mission in life, is to become toast. So you have to make yourself
Better
toast.
yourself. Evolve in a
exactly.
sense.
You have to make yourself toast by any means necessary. So you control 4 corners. It's so hard to do, and like the more like you start off in a kitchen, and the more stuff you pick up, like there's ants in the kitchen. If a plate breaks and you get a bit of plate stuck to you, you can drop on the floor, and every time something like this happens, your edibility goes down, and
of course
you want to finish with the most possible edibility by getting to the toaster, like making your way across the kitchen to the toaster. And if you fail by dropping on the floor for too long, or your edibility goes down, then you're dead. I was about to say you're toast, but you're not toast.
You're not. You're the opposite.
That's the point of it. You're not toast.
I'm imagining
You're
like
brown bread.
Yeah, brown bread. Excellent.
I'm imagining sort of like a Toy Story scenario where the mum will walk in and you have to just freeze.
It sort of
Just,
does
like,
have that
lock
kind of
up.
thing, because there is like a storyline going along. It's not a really in-depth one, but there is a storyline about this guy basically who is convinced that there's this sentient bread trying to wreck his life. He keeps coming home and his house is a fucking mess, and he's like, "No, it was the bread. It was the bread." And he's
That's really funny.
Like Bossa Studios are amazing like that. They don't take themselves seriously, but they create these games which are just ridiculous to play, like really really good fun. They're good at they look good at looking like a really really good. Taking one mechanic and just running with it.
Yeah,
and I think that's really good about it.
Richard just glared at me from the gallery. I think we've been going a bit too long.
Have we?
He's not got a happy face on.
You can't censor us, Rich. Free spirits.
All right, is that it for games?
Well, Titan Souls is out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And that's another really, really good game. It's basically it's called Titan Souls, so, it's kind of Titans, as in there's a lot of bosses. Souls, because you die a lot, and it's kind of like the Dark Souls and Demon Souls games.
Yep.
You're a hero. It kind of looks like 8-bit, like Zelda, 16-bit, kind of like that. It looks really, really cool. It's got like a nice chiptune soundtrack, which you're going to love as well.
Yes,
and
I will.
Your task is to defeat all these bosses, but you only have 1 heart of life, so 1 hit and you're dead.
Oh my
And you only have 1 arrow. That's the only weapon you've got. So you shoot an arrow.
You beat anyone.
So, and because you shoot an arrow, you have to go. If it misses, you have to go back. And pick it up. So I played at E3 last year and sat down to play and thought, this is okay, and then was just screaming. So I think we're going to do a let's play on it this week.
But
I think.
good difficult, like
really
rewardingly
good.
difficult?
It's
Okay.
really when you finally kill a boss.
It probably
it's
feels awesome.
It's the most rewarding way to do it. And I think when I did it, I'd managed to do it in a really cool way, which really impressed one of the developers, and because they'd been watching me be shit at it for about 25 minutes, and when I finally managed to kill her, they were like, "You're the only person who's managed to kill her like that." And I'm like, "Yes." Maybe they're just being nice.
I had a moment like that in Majora's Mask, where the last boss you have to beat are those twin snakes that go around, and you have to kill them by turning into a giant, use up all your magic. Essentially, my magic ran out, and it was like the 3rd day, the world was ending. I was really, really bummed out because this was like the 4th time I was trying it. I was essentially just firing arrows into the dust, because you can't even really see them when you're small.
Yeah.
I just fired one, I just heard,
Nice.
and I killed them. Random headshot through the dust storm.
Good work.
It was amazing, very satisfying.
Nice.
The only other game I was going to bring up was Pokemon Rumble World, which actually was released for free on 3DS. So, if you have a 3DS, I would recommend downloading it for free. It's kind of interesting because it's definitely Nintendo moving more towards the mobile side of things, because it's a free game that you can download and you can play. It's reasonably entertaining.
Yeah,
but
there's
almost
stuff you've got to
immediately,
buy though, right?
Immediately,
Yeah,
they're kind of
screw
saying
that,
like,
man.
"Hey, if you want to do this, you can buy crystals and buy things."
No.
So you kind of get some entertainment from it, and it's a free game, so you can't really complain. You get to play as like a lot of different Pokemon.
No,
But it's,
not for that.
well, I'm for it.
There's loads of awesome movies out though.
There's loads of films out this week, so I'm going to go from bad to good.
Okay.
Hot Tub Time Machine 2's out, which I hear is the worst film of the year.
Ooh.
I haven't seen it, but apparently it's even less funny than Get Hard and even more offensive.
Jeez.
So, and they replaced John Cusack with Adam Scott.
Adam Scott is a funny guy, but yeah.
Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. I'll be honest, I didn't see Paul Blart Mall Cop 1. Mall Cop. I can't even say it.
Yeah, Paul Blart Mall Cop.
I know it'd be up your street. It's your kind of movie, isn't it? No. You're a big Kevin James dude.
You just don't take it seriously. Just don't have it on in the background while you're doing something.
Instead of watching that, I would just buy or rent Observe and Report, which is about another mall cop. It's got Seth Rogen in it, and it's a freaking amazing
Or
film.
Die Hard.
Unless you're Alex, because I told Alex to do that, and he hates it, Observe and Report.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. And because I told him I loved it.
It is really good.
Lost River is out, which is Ryan Gosling's directorial debut. It's a very strange film.
Strange good,
You can't
bad.
knock him for ambition, but he's kind of
the start.
It feels like it feels like he's
definitely
he's
solid
watched
B.
a lot of David Lynch, and he spent a lot of time with Nicholas Winding Refn, and worked with him twice. Thought, I like this as well. I'm going to fuse these two in this weird world. And Beast of the Southern Wild, I thought was a bit of an influence. Great actors in it. Christina Hendricks, Matt Smith.
Okay.
Is he in it, or is he just directing?
He's in it. He's not in it. He's not in it. It's a mess. It's a mess, and it's boring. But it's it's something. Like he's really gone out on a limb, and good for him. It's just maybe a bit pretentious and wasn't to me. There's a Kurt Cobain documentary out called Montage of Heck.
I really want to see that.
Yeah, I fancied it, but it's really long.
Oh, how long is it?
It's like nearly 3 hours, I think.
That's quite a lot.
And I read that Dave Grohl isn't in it at all, which is like that's a big. So I guess he didn't want to be part of it, because I'm sure they would have asked him. But it's like I'm going to be sitting there thinking all the way through. I wonder what Dave Grohl thinks about this bit or that bit, because he's such an integral part of that story. So
and they didn't get him.
No,
did they get the other one?
I guess so, because I read this in a review. Like they were just saying, it's weird that he's not on board, but apparently there's lots of great stuff in it, because he documented so much of his life himself on camera and stuff.
No way.
So there's lots of photographs and things.
Cool.
So that'll be worth a watch.
That sounds cool.
That's good.
Good Kill is out, which is a film about drone pilots. It's really dark. It's Ethan Hawke. It's set in Las Vegas. It's like a really grim sequel to Top Gun, where Ethan Hawke used to be a fighter pilot, and now he just sits in a room in Las Vegas, an air-conditioned room with a joystick, killing people from a distance, and it's kind of made him numb. And
that does sounds good though.
It wasn't as I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to enjoy it, but I found it a little bit boring. It's Andrew Niccol who wrote Truman Show and did Gattaca with Ethan Hawke.
I love Gattaca.
It's got a lot to say, but I felt it was a bit heavy-handed and a bit obvious.
Yeah.
But interesting. Like there's going to be more stories like this, I think, because of the nature of how wars fought these days. Next one, Force Majeure, which is something that you've seen, Gav, so why don't you talk about that one?
I love it. It's my favourite film of the year, I think, so far. And I actually saw it by accident.
Yes.
How do you see a film by accident?
Funny.
Because I went to a press screening of The Voices. I walked in, and I maintain this is the PR's fault, right? Because I walked in to this screening room where there's one downstairs and there's one upstairs.
Yeah,
and
Soho screening room, surely. Yeah.
And the PR guy said to me, I walked in and I said, Force Majeure? And he went, yep. Where are you from? I said IGN, and he didn't have a thing to tick me off or anything like that. So he said, "You would like a drink?" I said, "I'd love a cup of tea, thank you very much." Took my tea, went and sat down.
Is this essential to the story?
It is, yeah. Set the mood.
There's a bit of Chekhov's gun in there. Is the team going to come back at the end?
Nice pull.
Yeah. I sat down to watch the film, and it was running late. So I could hear the film downstairs had already started for about 10, 15 minutes, something like that. Then the credits came up for Force Majeure. It came on, and The Voices is not like Force Majeure at all, from what I understand.
Well, it's in the English language.
Yeah. Force Majeure isn't. It's Norwegian, is it? Or Swedish?
I don't know. You're the one talking about it.
It's a Nordic language. It's one of the Nordic languages. Okay. And it came on, and
subtitled, I hope.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It wasn't just you
sitting listening to.
But it came on, and there was like this. Before the credits come up, there's like a little scene, and I thought, well, maybe maybe it might turn into The Voices. I couldn't quite see who was in the helmet. It's not Ryan Reynolds who's in the ski helmet. No. And then Force Majeure came up, and. Actually, I really wanted to see Force Majeure, and the film downstairs had already started, so I sat down and
I think you made a good choice.
I think I made the right choice.
Yeah, no, I've seen it, but it's a better film.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. It's basically about a decision that a family man makes, a father. He makes a questionable decision, which impacts his relationship with his wife and his kids and friends, and it's discussed at length throughout the rest of the film.
Yeah, they're kind of trapped in their holidaying in a ski resort for the whole time, so it's quite claustrophobic that he can't really get away from this mistake that he made, and how it affects the family.
Yeah.
And it's clever because, I don't know, initially when he does what he does, you think, oh, I wouldn't do that. And then by the end of the film, you're thinking, bloody hell, would I have done that?
Yeah.
And it very much makes you doubt your own masculinity.
Oh, 100%.
So you know what you learn what the mistake is?
Yeah, no, it's at the start.
Yeah,
No,
okay,
I'll just not say it
just
now,
not
but
saying it.
it's in the first 10 minutes of the film.
It's actually on the IMDb page as well, unfortunately, which I'm really annoyed by. But it's super early on. But then it's basically this mistake is brought up again and again and again and discussed at length, and then another couple are sort of brought into it, and that's really it's darkly funny.
Yeah.
But it's a really, really great film.
It's a very interesting movie.
Yeah, you'll come out feeling like less of a man, definitely.
But my pick of the week is John Wick. John Wick is my pick because we talked about it for bloody months.
John Wicked, I hear.
I first reviewed it 6 months ago, I think, at Fantastic Fest. It's just a really great action movie. It's so much fun. It's made by guys who know what they're doing. They're two stuntmen. It's their first movie. They've spent years developing it with Keanu. So it's all done with him in mind, like what he can do acting-wise, what he can do action-wise. And it's just brilliant, and I really hope they get to do some sequels. We got a video up this week where I was asking him about that, and he's pretty confident.
Seems on board,
yeah, the studio's confident. But yeah, if you just want to switch your brain off and have 90 minutes of just absolute fun,
watch Force Majeure.
Fun. Watch John Wick. But if you want to be challenged, watch Force Majeure.
Excellent, definitely.
And that is your lot for this week.
Yep.
As ever, you can get in touch with us on IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com.
Yep.
We are going to the pub, so thank you for watching and listening, and see you soon.
Bye. See you later.